The Shrugs, their track called Stone Song here on the Radio Wammo Breakfast. Time now is 7:39.
Close members of Muammar Gaddafi's family have crossed into Algeria, according to the country's official press agency. Gaddafi's wife Safia, his daughter Aisha and his sons Hannibal and Mohammed.
It's Eye on the World today with Selwyn Manning, of course. So thanks very much to scoop.co.nz. Morning, Selwyn.
Yeah, good morning, Glenn.
And we are obviously back to Libya, and the chase is on for Colonel Gaddafi. What's the latest?
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, while this hunt is on, like the intro suggested, the hunt's still on for Muammar Gaddafi. It continues, but the news is broken this week that members of his family are over in Algeria, and they escaped Libya and the killing that was going on in Libya, and Algeria at this stage has given it refuge, Glenn. You may remember that we kind of touched that Algeria was a likely kind of destination for the Gaddafi family in last week's bulletin on information that we got from Al Jazeera at that time. So it looks like it has come to pass. The location of the deposed Gaddafi, however, remains really, at this stage, unknown. If we look at Algeria, if any nation in North Africa is likely to know where Gaddafi is, it would be Algeria. It's Secret Service, the DRS, it's notorious in the region and throughout Europe, really. The DRS, its reach is very deep and its tactics extremely sinister. Algeria, like Gaddafi's Libya, it's secular, and it has been a war with politicised elements of its own Islamic community. So there are similarities there. Some New Zealand listeners may recognise the name, the DRS. That was the intelligence service that was in behind the Zawi case and discrediting Ahmed Zawi here in New Zealand.
Right.
But with Algeria, one would expect that international pressure will become very intense on that country to cough up information on Gaddafi and two of his sons who are still in hiding. Just got to remember there that the trio, Gaddafi and these two sons that are still out there, are wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. There's a Euronews breaking news item just to tidy this up, like in the intro there, Glenn.
Close members of Muammar Gaddafi's family have crossed into Algeria, according to the country's official press agency. Gaddafi's wife Safia, his daughter Aisha and his sons Hannibal and Mohammed are reported to be in the party, which has sought refuge in Libya's western neighbour. Algeria's President Bouteflika has long-standing links with Gaddafi and his regime.
Okay, so obviously, I mean, that's now official that they are over there. Probably no chance they'll be handed back.
Well, this is one of the things that there is a question mark on. I mean, one would expect in the first instance that they wouldn't be handed back, but there are a couple of complexities there. You heard the name of Algeria's President Bouteflika there. Now, Bouteflika is really a puppet president who's subservient to its military intelligence. Now, really, the military intelligence is the one which will call the shots on this. The situation there with Gaddafi, like we mentioned in the intro, Glenn, there are long ties that go back decades. There are similarities that the two states were secular. Libya under Gaddafi was secular, not Islamic. Algeria is secular, certainly, under the Bouteflika regime and the DRS controlling those things. You've got to remember, Algeria was one of the first to cough up lists of names of supposed terrorists in the wake of 9/11. It coughed those up to the United States, to the West. It was in its interest to do so, as it basically what it was doing was it was naming all of its opposition as terrorists, and the United States was sucked into that kind of tube, if you like. So you've got to remember that with Algeria, there's a history that goes back decades, yes, but there's a history also where things are not what they seem. If you want to do a study in false flag operations, the DRS and the Bouteflika Algeria is the place to do that.
Okay.
But if we look at this, before we go further into the Libyan situation, Algeria's refugees, for example, they escaped. This is in recent times, in recent years, right up until 6 months ago. Those who escaped crossing across the Mediterranean, landing in Italy, they found themselves in a three-way deal between Italy's leader Berlusconi, Libya's Gaddafi and Algeria's Bouteflika. And these dirty deals, they do not come cheap. The deals saw Berlusconi, Italy's leader, received the refugees only then to ship them off to Gaddafi's Libya. Gaddafi, he was paid EU money in the deal to receive these refugees. On landing in Libya, the refugees disappeared. Remember, they're Algerian refugees. They were suspected of having perished in Gaddafi's desert concentration camps. So that's how close these dirty deals are. You know, these kind of things go back decades. Is it in Algeria's interests to actually give a safe harbour for Gaddafi's lot? You know, that remains to be seen. But back to, this post-Gaddafi Libya, security and law and order inside Libya is now really a major problem. We can see the concerns surfacing in the Western kind of government positions, and certainly from inside the country too. Inside Libya, the Transitional National Council, or the TNC, it's positioning as the interim governing body of post-Gaddafi Libya. On the ground, however, what we're seeing is the rebel forces still attempting to destroy any remaining pro-Gaddafi forces that are in the country. The hunt is also on, obviously, for those suspected of orchestrating war crimes against Libyans, against those people that did not support Gaddafi, and we've seen a lot of information, a lot of news coming out on that. And there's a clip here from the BBC that really shows us scenes, Glenn, that is very, very close to the cruelty that we saw, and it's reminiscent of the Serbian atrocities in the Balkan conflict some years ago.
In the shadow of the eagle, dark secrets are coming to light. This was the headquarters of the Hamis Brigade, a much-feared army unit run by Colonel Gaddafi's son. In a compound just behind it, we found victims of execution, killed on Tuesday in the dying days of the regime. This man's feet were still bound. But there was worse to come. Inside this smouldering warehouse, the charred remains of dozens of bodies.
So it's pretty understandable that the rebel fighters do want to find the people who did these crimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's human instinct. It's also from the point of view of bringing accountability and justice to the country. It's important too. But the country does remain in chaos. The machine gun touting rebels scattered far and wide all over Libya. It's a big country. This loose cell structure that assisted the uprising, if you look at that, it's particularly difficult for that cell structure to allow a centralised control of these rebel forces to occur during this post-Gaddafi period. Refer to it as a post-Gaddafi period because, you know, obviously the guy who doesn't, Gaddafi does not have the control of the country anymore, and he's in hiding. But there is yet to arise, if you like, a replacement government, and this is this interim, post-Gaddafi interim period. There's the chaos that's there is in evidence in many clips and reports that are coming out. And here's an Al Jazeera report showing how the rebel checkpoints are making travelling around the country extremely dangerous for many.
A pickup truck with 2 Gaddafi loyalists approaches a Libyan fighter's checkpoint. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. It soon bursts into flames. A man stumbles out from the driver's side and appears to be hit by small arms fire. Another falls and lies still. He gets up and runs away, smoke from the truck briefly obscuring him. But he soon gives up. Where are you from? One man is asked. From Sirte. What was the operation? We were driving just to check the road.
It's hard to know who's rebel and who's pro-Gaddafi.
Yeah, it's not like everyone's wearing uniforms and it's clearly defined. The fronts have all gone. You know, the resistance. You know, it's a strange thing, but the resistance that pro-Gaddafi forces were putting up is largely falling away. There are still pockets, and their call out is for an ultimate surrender, but it's still not the case. So the suspicion of everybody that isn't kind of identified in some way is rife throughout the country. Voice of America, it is reporting that in Libya, Islam is going to resurge. You know, it's starting to actually do reports, obviously, in the United United States' interests, being Voice of America. But it's trying to edge, you can see, coverage of people thinking what is going to happen next. Now, the question being asked is who will influence the next government. There are concerns that there is a political vacuum in Libya, just like what we're seeing with no control, centralised control of the rebel forces. That vacuum, will it be filled with destabilising groups that will unleash violence, as we've seen in Iraq? That's the main fear. But Muslim factions inside Libya that are rising, they appear to be much more moderate than what we have seen on other war fronts like in Iraq. They are basically victims of the secular leader Gaddafi. Gaddafi, he was a Muslim, but he was secular. He did not embrace the Islamic communities inside Libya. In the last days, for example, he manipulated his propaganda to assert that the Muslim community inside Libya was treacherous, and he used that as a weapon against them. These people, they want a new way, clearly. It is given that the new Libya will have strong ties. That's a given. But what that means as far as the divisions, yet to be seen. There's a clip here too, Glenn, that is kind of touching on that, and it really looks at what may come in the future.
At the beginning of the uprising, the secular Gaddafi demonized the rebels as Islamic terrorists. But as the tide of battle turned, the government reached out to Islamic leaders. Many dismissed it as brazen pandering to the citizens of this overwhelmingly Muslim nation. Because, as some see it here, the victory of the rebels will be a victory for Islam.
We will never surrender. We win or we die.
So, Selwyn, this will, I guess, keep unfolding, and you will continue to cover it over the next few weeks and coming months. Thanks very much, Selwyn.
Okay, Glenn, take care.
Selwyn Manning over there, and you can see this as a video once more up at scoop.co.nz, and with all the show notes and links to the videos and everything we've been talking about.